Mark, come on up. Welcome. The seat's already warm for you. We're planning on talking today and tomorrow. And today we just kind of wanted to have a conversation and get your story. And is there anyone here who's not familiar with Mark's story? So everyone knows. Oh, there's some hands up here. Okay, there's some. Well, you're known as the man who's fascinated with robots, right? So just, for the people who don't know anything about you, tell us, what is your connection with robots? What are you looking for?
Let's see, they just took away the slide clicker.
Oh, the clipper?
Yeah.
Wer hat das denn mitgenommen? Hey, Carsten. Ja, den Clipper hier für seinen Slide.
Dankeschön.
There you go.
Well, I've been interested in robots for a long time. I think the earliest interest came from animals. So I have a little clip here. Could you put up these slides?
Mark, you can see it right. I think.
There we
go.
go. You can't. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I think it's really amazing what people and animals can do. These animals move in really complicated environments using their sensors and their bodies and their intelligence and their courage. This animal has its life in its hooves.
Yeah.
And these animals are sometimes running for their lives. Not only the gazelle, but the cheetah who's trying to get its next meal. And all of us, all of you, can do things like this. It's amazing. I assume you were out this morning getting ready, getting warmed up, climbing the buildings in Hanover. Is that what you did?
Yeah, this morning I was watching the U.S. president shake hands with a North Korean dictator.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
But
So let me put one. So we've been interested in building robots that can go into the kinds of environments that animals go in. And our whole approach is to build robots that are dynamic and that can sense their environment and react to disturbances. There's a big dog slipping on ice. And we built a whole series of robots like this that know about the world they're working in and can hear. This robot's just following that leader.
Yeah.
Without anybody driving. And it uses coordination of its body and its legs. And this robot's going where wheeled robots can't go. So the rough terrain ability is really remarkable. And that's the fastest legged robot.
That's fascinating.
So that's sort of been our story for a while, and we've been working on solving the technical problems and making robots that can do the things that people and animals do. Mobility, dexterity using their hands, and the ability to perceive the world around them. Look out here. You can see every one of these 200 or 300 people, and it's sort of effortless. Yet that's really a challenge for machines.
Is that where, I was asking the gentleman before you about artificial intelligence, is that also what allows robots to behave this way?
Yes, AI is a broad field, and some of artificial intelligence is perceiving the world, but it's also making plans for how to do tasks in the world. But it's also controlling and sensing our bodies. Sometimes I say we're more focused on building athlete-type intelligence. Athletes are really good at moving their bodies, at understanding the world just around them, whereas companies like Google or IBM are concentrating on scholarly-type intelligence, high-level concepts and learning. Mm-hmm. And I think those two parts can fit together, and we're focused on the athletic parts.
Do you remember when you decided to become a robot engineer?
I've been building things for a long time, ever since I was a kid. But I think Boston Dynamics is really a team play. It's not me. I'm not the idea guy behind everything we do. We have people who have building things since they were kids, race cars, computers. We have someone who's an electrical engineer, but also has a degree in fashion. And all those people working together is really what makes Boston Dynamics happen.
Can you tell us a little bit about the early days of Boston Dynamics?
So I was doing robotics before Boston Dynamics for 10 years at MIT, and before that at Carnegie Mellon. And I decided I wanted to see if we could do something a little bit more commercial than what we'd been doing. And after a period of meandering, trying to figure out how to do that, we did the Big Dog project. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show one more Big Dog video.
Yeah.
And this was a key event. We'd already gotten Big Dog to be able to hike in the woods, and here's an example. But at this point in our robotics, you had to have a human who was very skilled and watching very closely steer the robot along this hiking trail. So this was very difficult. We spent months and months doing this. After this project, we decided that even though doing rough terrain was exciting, that there was still a lot more to be done if we were to make robots that could go in buildings and houses. And we designed this robot, Spot. And Spot had a driver in this video that had no practice at all, and they just drove up and down the hill the first time without any trouble at all. And that's because we redesigned the hardware, we'd added a lot of intelligence, we'd added some perception in the robot that didn't exist before, and it was really a breakthrough for us to go from Big Dog, which many of you think of as a successful robot, to taking it to the next level, which is sort of the work we're doing now. So we're really excited about Spot, and now there's a couple of robots that follow Spot, Spot Mini, Humanoid Atlas, and some others that are using what we learned on this project to take things forward.
And would you say, was this one of the biggest breakthroughs in your professional career as a robot engineer?
I don't actually believe in breakthroughs that much. I think people work continuously on problems. The next problem comes up and they work to make progress. It's not like some areas where everybody is stuck and then all of a sudden they solve a problem and boom, they go ahead. In robotics, it seems like the more work you put in, the more resources, the better team you build, you make progress. And I think there's still a lot of progress to be made. We're nowhere near what can be done.
What do you think can be done?
Well, I think that in the long run, we can make robots that do everything that you and I do, and everything that those animals do. I think that's a long way out. Part of our strategy as a company is to work on both the long run and the immediate run. So, I think one of the challenges for venture-backed companies is that they're driven to work on what can produce money-making results in a very short run. And we are doing that, too, with the productization of Spot Mini. Tomorrow night, I'll talk about Spot Mini, and I'm hoping we'll have a working robot here, and you can get more detail about that. But we're working on that. At the same time, we're still doing longer-term research that I think is going to pay off down the road. Mm-hmm. I think when robots can do everything that people can do, they'll open up a huge variety of opportunities. I have a few slides on that, but I don't have them in the right order.
Okay.
So I'll come to that in a minute.
Well, remind me of the order, the 3D. Yeah, okay, that's my next question. Let's talk about 3D printing and how that plays into this.
Well, one of the interesting things about robotics is it's not all about computing. I know a lot of people think that AI and computing is the only thing that matters, but the hardware matters too. And we've been working on making stronger, lighter, faster, more capable robots. And one of the techniques for that is 3D printing. So an example is that for the Atlas robot, which is a humanoid, which is about my size now, we started by printing the legs. And that let us take designs that had many, many separate components and connectors and things, and put them into a single thing that was lighter and stronger and more compact. So this upper thigh is an example. This is showing a cutaway where you can see oil paths, actuators, filters, and it's a very light, strong component. And this is all made possible by modern 3D metal printing technology. But we've taken it a lot further. We've built manifolds and space frames, and that thing in the red box is a hydraulic power unit that weighs only 5 kilograms and produces 5 kilowatts of power. That's really a remarkable density, and it's what let us take Atlas from a very big, awkward robot shown on the right that weighed about, let's see if I can get it in kilos, 160 kilos. And now it's down to about 80 kilos. It's the same size as me. And we did that by doing all that integration on the components. And here's a little bit of that robot out in the world. This robot is just as strong as the big heavy one and has all the range of motion, but it's much smaller and compact and uses less energy and many other things. We've been testing it out in the world and doing some tasks that people normally do, such as handling these boxes. The cool thing here is that the robot's using its whole body. It's not just an arm on a fixed base. It's got 2 arms, it can move its torso, and it can walk around, which means that it's much more versatile than a fixed robot.
Well, that brings us to the next topic of real-world applications for dynamic robots. I mean, what do you see them doing, other than lifting boxes?
Let me let this finish.
I mean, we have to have boxes that it's okay to drop them.
Here we're showing that the robot can perceive and replan its actions. It's only been told to pick up that box.
Yeah.
And here it performs its task, and we interfere with it, and so it figures out how to move ahead. And we've been making the robot more athletic. This is a more recent version that has hips that are a little bit stronger. And we're working on a number of other modifications that let it do other tasks in the world. This might be a place where we're starting to get ahead of people, or at least ahead of some people. I don't know, how's your gymnastics?
I think I can still do that. I cannot do that, no. I mean, do you? What about? Let me
you
just
ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you with the box and you pushing the box away from the robot. I mean, as a human being watching that, I think, well, if you keep doing that, that robot is going to hit you in the head.
Well, the nice things about robots are that they only have as many feelings as you give them. And that robot doesn't get angry or impatient, or it's really just doing its job. And, we're like proud parents. When we push the box, all we're trying to do is show the skill of the robot. We don't have any anger at the robot. We're not trying to hurt it. I know some of the media says we're abusing the robot. We're really not. We're just showing off what it can do. I actually have a video on my phone where my daughter, when she was 1 year old, is walking along, and I give her a little push to see how her balance is, and because I'm a proud parent. And if you come up later, I'll show you that video. You can find me.
Okay.
But I'm not going to show it here.
So let's talk about the capabilities and applications. You've got a slide here.
So that you notice that there's two circles here.
Yeah.
One that's to the lower left, which is the short-term applications, and then I'll talk about our long-term goals, which are the other. So I think right now, existing robots can be used for entertainment. Imagine going to a theme park where there are a bunch of robot characters that you can interact with or that put on performances for you. I think security patrols, commercial security, where you have a uniformed guard traveling around a shopping center or an industrial facility, making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, and emergency response, where you're going into a very dangerous place. I've been to Fukushima, where they still have humans in protective suits cleaning up. And really, I think robots could be and should be in those places doing some of those tasks. So that's what we could do right now with existing robots. I think very soon we'll be able to do things like warehouse logistics. There's already some people doing that, but there's a much wider set of things that can be done, and we're working on some of those things. And parcel delivery, where instead of having DHL or Federal Express carry the parcel from the car to your house, we could have robots doing that. And tomorrow night I'll show a little video of what that might look like. But here's really where the big payoff is. Taking care of sick and elderly people. I used to say that I was looking forward to using robots to take care of my parents when they're elderly, but what's more likely is that my children will use them to help take care of me as I get older. Some of you may think that that's a bad idea, that you want your children to take care of you, or you want to take care of your parents. But you know, it's a real burden. In the United States, there's about 31 million people who spend about half of their work week in the equivalent time taking care of someone who's dependent on them. And I think if they had help in doing that, it would really be an opportunity. But the skill and the development needed to get there is still a ways out.
What about the cost of, I mean, I like the idea of healthcare and in a nursing home situation, for example, or even at home care for someone who's sick. Do we have any idea of what that would cost?
I don't think there's any reason to be pessimistic about the cost. You know, right now the robots we build are very expensive because they're built mostly as prototypes, where we have a design team that's doing very intensive first-time design. But as we move forward, we will be able to reduce the cost of the robots, and I think that they should be really in the range where they're cost-effective and reduce costs of doing many tasks. There's just no reason. We're already working on a small robot, Spot Mini, which we're going to get into mass production next year. Mm-hmm. We've built 10 of them by hand. We're building 100 later this year using contract manufacturing. And next year we hope to produce, go into a 1,000 per year rate of production. And the costs are going to come way down. I'm not going to tell you what the cost is yet, but later this year we'll start having a price for them. So stay tuned.
Are you already thinking about security issues with these robots? And I'm just thinking with these, or the Spot Mini that we're going to look at tomorrow. What happens if someone hacks into these robots and to use them for, instead of taking care of people, you could use it to break into someone's house, for example?
Yeah. Well, we are devoting a very significant effort to attempt to make them unhackable. I hate to say that because someone out there will take it as a challenge. But we absolutely are devoting resources to that. And there's many facets to what you have to do to make them unhackable, especially since they'll be in hands of other people who have pretty significant access. But we are working on that.
Do you think that's possible to make them truly unhackable?
I hate to say, since so many people are getting hacked these days, we're doing everything we can. We're probably going to hire some black hats to try and hack them for us. I don't know what else we can do, but try to do that.
What's the biggest criticism you get, though, for this?
You know, I think our robots are like any other new technology. They can be used for a whole wide range of things. They can, like, take the car, the airplane, the computer, you name it, the internet. They can be used for good things, and they can be used for bad things. I don't think there's bad technology. There's just bad users. We're trying to take a responsible approach where we apply the robots to things they're good for. I don't know what else.
What do you
imagine swearing off all that technology because you're focused so much on the possible downside and not take advantage of all the possible upside. I think that would be a big mistake for people.
Has the conversation changed, in the wake of the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica scandal now with people not trusting other companies to take care of their data, for example? I mean, do you see that kind of bleeding into discussions about robots and their futures?
I haven't seen those specific cases bleed in. You know, the media for a long time, I'm blaming this on the media, but the media for a long time, when they write about us, although many times they sound like they're interested, enthusiastic, often call the robots terrifying or say that we're being abusive. My favorite headline is the Washington Examiner had a headline that said, "The greatest threat to the United States is no longer North Korea. It's the robotics company Boston Dynamics." And that's an extreme case, but I think that there's people out there, or there's lots written like that, and I've been more focused on that than the Facebook type thing. And I think that the opportunity for robots is really much greater than the risks.
And maybe it's because of what we've just seen from Hollywood. I mean, can you name? I mean, let me just ask the audience. Can you name a character or a film character in a Hollywood film that's a robot that has been a good robot? Who?
Wally.
Wally. Okay. R2-D2.
50 years ago, there were some.
There were some, right?
Robbie the Robot, yeah. And in Japan, Japan, I think, has a more rosy public attitude towards robots, and the media has lots of depictions that are positive.
Do you think the whole Terminator? I hear that all the time from people saying that the robots are going to turn against us. I mean, do you think that influences how people see your work?
I think that idea sometimes influences what people see. But I think it has very little connection to the technology we're developing and others are developing. Very little thing. I think it's in people's minds to perceive it that way. But if you look at the capabilities, for instance, we and other robot companies are working very hard to make robots that are good for anything at all. Yet the public is worried about them doing everything that could possibly be done. And I'm not saying that someday we won't get there, but I think we will have time for our ideas and our tools to evolve to catch up with that. It's not gonna be tomorrow. All of a sudden, robots are everywhere.
If we were to have in the distant future a time when the robots were to become evil, do you think it would be because they themselves had learned evil behavior, or would it be that their human owners or creators would have programmed them to be that way? I mean, there's a difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the evil people see in robots, and the evil, if any evil is done, it'll be on the hands of people who make them.
The people.
And likewise, I think that the good, I mean, this is really where I think robots are. I think there's huge opportunity for good and for finding useful and beneficial applications. And it's on us to find those and cultivate those and develop a market and ecosystem that takes advantage of that. And that's what we're trying to do.
In aging societies, for example, Japan, which has a really, as you said, has a very positive relationship with robots. Do you think as Western societies, as we get older, are we the natural fit for a future where robots live with us?
I mean, Japan is a great example because the population over 65 is something like 20%. In the United States, it's, I think, 16%. So those, over 65 doesn't mean, you're an invalid anymore.
Right.
But those populations are aging. I think getting workers is very difficult in Japan. I believe that the number of skilled construction workers is on a downslope, and the construction companies are really panicked about where they're going to be able to get people. And this doesn't involve replacing anybody's job, just through normal retirement or the lack of the young population coming to take those kinds of jobs. There's a real need. So when we talk to people running businesses, they're all very hungry for employees that could be robots to help them do the tasks they have in front of them because they're having lots of trouble getting people.
Do you think robots could be used to diffuse the migration debates that we have going on?
I think you're taking me too far out of my comfort zone.
Okay, I'm just looking towards the future.
There's too many different political threads.
Yeah, but we hear that though a lot.
Especially here in Europe. Right?
Yeah, but we do hear that a lot, that we need migration in certain societies to replace workers, that workers that they don't have. Germany, for example, we hear all the time that in nursing homes in Germany, they have a shortage of people to work in nursing homes, long-term health care. And maybe robots could fill that gap.
I think it absolutely could fill that gap. It's still going to take some while until they're good enough to do those kinds of jobs, but eventually they will.
We're almost out of time. You're going to come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do tomorrow?
I'm going to give a slightly more comprehensive status report on the robots we're building, and we will have a robot here to demo on stage. So we'll do that.
And do we know what time?
Let me show one more thing.
And do we know what time that's going to be tomorrow?
I think I was told it's 7 o'clock.
Is it 7?
So on this stage, just about now, but tomorrow.
Okay.
So, not everybody is afraid of robots. And here, these videos weren't made by us. These are other people who are inspired by our robots. You could call this a spoof. So does everybody recognize that that's not Big Dog there?
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is that people all over the world these are 4 more spoofs. The upper left is in Tokyo. The upper right is a Los Angeles-based web television show. The lower left is Denmark. And the lower right, I think, is some poor place in the United States where the poor kid doesn't even have a friend, and he has to substitute. So I'm inspired that a lot of people are enthusiastic about the work we're doing, and it's not all gloom and doom.
Yeah, I mean, when we say a dog is a man's best friend, maybe a robot will be a man's best friend, too. All right. Mark Robert, thank you very much, and we'll look forward to tomorrow night.
Okay, good.
It's good talking with you. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
Thank you.